right, Salma,
Yes.
this is looking pretty good. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, it took me a while, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so what's sampled here? The trees?
Yeah, it was the trees, but then I like covered like over it a lot.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, this looks pretty good, except that I would now probably rough some up so it's not all soft.
Hmm.
And again, I would do this with my mixer brush. I'm gonna make this really rough here and there. Yeah. You know, I want a mixture of hard and soft edges, correct?
Yeah.
You see how that kind of mixes it up a little?
Hmm.
Now, another thing we can do. I'm going to show you a guy here who does this kind of same thing. I'm just been talking. Light is light coming from the left?
Yeah.
You didn't seem clear about that.
I think I was thinking of it of the light source on the top, but then I just kind of like forgot about like the
Don't put the light source on the top
no.
because it's the worst lighting. Like when I go out painting, I don't want to be out at noon. I don't want to be painting at noon because the sun's right over and I don't get any interesting shadows. Right?
Hmm.
You just get straight overhead. You want something where it's throwing the shadow this way or that way. Now I soften this edge going into the water. Another thing sometimes I'll do, or everybody does. Let's see if we can pick a brown up. And this is where your smudge brush comes in really handy. Let's see if it'll let me do that. I don't feel like dialing this thing in right now. It's changing my color, which is super weird. Hang on. There we go. Now I'm going to pull, I got the mix way up. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so what was going on there is I had the mix all the way up, which meant I wasn't getting hardly any paint. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I would do here is I would start pulling some of the brown of the shores. It comes up to the water or it comes up to the edge. It'll get real shallow and you might see a little of the warmth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now I'd have to manipulate this and I'm not doing it yet, but you guys, I think, get the point. It's an old painting trick. Now I'm just using a clear mixer and I'm just going to mix it in with that blue and let them kill each other. So you can see using your mixer brush for that, it works really nice, right?
Hmm.
Now we got something a little more interesting there. Let's go here. Now another thing, and I might just, you could do this with your mixer. This is one where I might just come in. Because I think this might do this okay. Because this is an alpine environment probably. Let's do this first. Where is this in your mind?
I'm not sure, but I got a lot of like mountain references.
This here too. Let me pull. I want this to not feel so uniform. And I got to break these up in different ways. You know, I don't want everything to be, you know, a super soft thing. I'm just trying to work quick. So let's go. I want to try this. I want to try grabbing a regular brush. And try this. And I'm going to put this brush on. Let's try color burn. Yeah, might be too dark. Let's try that. So I'm putting the light up to the left. Now, probably again, I'd probably do this with a smut or with a mixer, not with this one. I just want to get a deeper blue in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not everywhere, because I like this blue you got. It's the right thing. That a lot of the blue in snow has that sort of that color you hit it. That's probably enough right there. Maybe even too much. Just go hold that. Now let's try this. I'm gonna go new layer. Grab maybe that. Oops. Now this I might do just with a regular brush and then manipulate it. So this the ones facing the whatever you call it, the sun. Now, this case, I don't think I want it to mix underneath that much. So I'm going to turn off sample all layers. I'm just going to let it sort of float up here on its own. Not leave much of it. So I'm blasting most of this out. I don't want it to be overboard. So in this case, I don't really want it to mix too much. I want it to. Now I'm going to put one more here. Oops. That. So we're starting to mix a few different colors in there. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Where'd you go? Where's Salma at?
I'm here.
Oh,
Do you hear me?
now I can.
Oh, okay.
Is this making sense?
Yes.
Um, probably. I'm just using my. Good enough for now. A little bit of that reflection. Probably get it here too. This is closer. I'm going to lose the top of this thing, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. Let's go transform, and I'm going to skew this and kiss it up to the edge right there. I'm going to put it on top so I can see it. You know, and I'll handle that edge in a minute. Don't worry about it. Let's go. Skew. Very good. Now let's go filter, liquefy. And this one right here is like a little, it's kind of like a smudge tool, but a little different. It's called liquefy. It's not going to be so severe here in a second. I want to see more of it. I'm losing too much of it. So when that happens, I might go I could do a couple of things. I might get a big soft brush. Really lower the opacity. Big. and start to wipe it out the way I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now I got a little more control over it. So now I'm getting a little bit of that ripple going on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I'm going to say, a couple of ripples over there. Probably put a few little dark ripples over it too. That makes sense? Yeah. And then maybe back here, if I can find a nice brush. So far I haven't found a good one for this. I might have to manipulate it. Let's try this. Let's go to our brush settings. Maybe I can get a little bit of something back there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I tighten up that brush a little bit so I can get a little, that would be on a separate layer. Hang on. Because I want to be able to manipulate it. I'm going to tighten up this brush a little more. Oops. Yeah. You know, something back there. That one. Ooh, I kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that. So again, if you put a reflection into something and then there's a shine or something over it, a highlight or something, it really pushes that idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then here, again, for this, I might just start off with a regular brush for this. But sometimes, you know, it's not about, sometimes you just got to go in and paint. I get some of these trees breaking. They're not all the same height. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'd probably go back in with my mixer and pull some out of this soup, paint some in. Another thing I'd probably do, that little patch right there is looking cool, that little warm patch. That was. I'm gonna grab this dark right here. Why? Because it'll put it in front of that background. That other value was getting a little bit lost. And I would manipulate these trees so they look kind of cool. And right now they don't yet. But that's where I throw down shapes and I usually manipulate. But see how if we vary that, it feels a little more natural.
Yeah.
So let's go here. I might have to do this on another layer. I'm not sure. Yeah, probably. And I'm going to go. Now, the reason I'll do this instead of just picking the color exactly is because I actually want it to overlay into the layer underneath. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm not just going, oh, I'll just mix up the exact color. Well, then it doesn't marry to the color underneath. I'm sort of over it. And I don't want to do that. That's not bad. Let's start there. And again, on these front facing planes, I might put a little warmth because they'll catch a little warmth here and there. And again, what am I doing? I'm always trying to vary my color a little bit and my value if I can. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now you see why we have to go out plein air painting? Yeah,
Yeah.
this is why. Otherwise you don't know shit. Not about color. Anyway. I just warmed it up just a hair. Spread it around a little bit. I'd probably erase some out. Probably vary it a little more, you know. And then again, back here, this is going to have some sort of shoreline on it. We'll get something that ends it there, maybe even. Might be docks, buildings, could be like Mammoth or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab this color. Maybe there's some buildings back here. And I could also come in here and put a cool value on the other side to sort of indicate the other side of the building. I'll probably have to tone that down, but for now it'll work. Could even put maybe some docks coming into the water. And then I think, oh, let's do this. Don't do this kind of crappy selection I'm doing. Now, again, if I'm doing something super, I'm just going to half-ass this right now. I might give it a little more breathing room up top. Let me get my color. Again, if nothing else, it's going to get a little dirtier towards that horizon and a little warmer. Maybe just a little. Then I'd make sure that when I, somewhere in this process, and this would probably be a mixer brush too. but I'm gonna do it this way for now. You know, I want to soften up that edge a little. I probably pull some upward to kind of indicate there's some pines up there. I don't want a lot of hard edges here. I don't want them too soft. So I'm always kind of going back and forth. And I'm sort of pulling up because I want to get the indication of trees maybe. That's a little too much. Then I'll go back and tone it down. I'd go back and reshape and tone things down to make sure it's not too much. Like right there. And I'll make sure that they feel a little more like trees. You know, make sure I get a few more hard edges in there again. I could go back, sample this. Use that again, reshape some of this. This over here. Now, sometimes when you're painting, traditionally, I'll look at an area like that and I go, it's kind of disconnecting a little bit. And I'll do a glaze over it to reunify that area. Does that make any sense?
Okay.
That didn't sound like it made sense. No?
I'm not sure what a glaze is.
Okay, so if I have an area, a glaze is just you put a color down and then you put a very translucent, transparent wash over it just to affect it,
Oh,
not to
okay.
cover it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I got a blue, I might let that dry, and or a yellow, I might let that dry and then wash a blue over it. Now I'm going to get green. That's a glaze, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll use it to unify. Sometimes everybody uses it to unify an area. Okay, so the way I'm looking at it is you got this big mountain right here, and these could drop off because it's getting sort of pushed behind this mountain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want to overdo it. I just be like that. It kind of unifies that area a little bit too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And some of these too, right here, even though I know they're far away, there's sort of a disconnect for me here. Oops. I might put a couple of pines going up too. Those are too big, but you get the point. Actually, hang on. These are on an overlay. I just want some verticals going on, not a whole lot. So there's not a disconnect between this and this, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta be, sort of make sense. I put a couple up here. Out here where they catch a lot of light, maybe they don't have a lot of snow on them. Then you can put those cool little, they'll have a ridge of them. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
They'll have a row of them coming down. You know, start dicking around with that a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Questions?
Will you have this in a video?
Absolutely not.
Mm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can edit it.
Okay.
Usually when I'm doing these things are just talks. I don't really think much about them, but that's fine.
Mhm.
Saving on my computer. I don't know if you knew that. And I might put a cloud in there. I might put a big, whatever you call that. What's the word I'm looking for? Thunderhead. I like thunderheads. This is all too chaotic, these ripples. I'd have to figure that out a little bit. What I like to look at is what's causing the ripples. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like the shoreline, there could be some that sort of, there's a shoreline, you know, laps up and then it kind of laps out. So it kind of creates this. If there, sometimes I'll deliberately put a duck or a geese or something on a lake so I can do that spiraling out, rippling out kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
If I put a boat in there, I can put that wake on and on and on, right? But I'm always trying to figure out what, you know, maybe it's the wind throwing it and the wind's going to chop it more, you know. Also, if I have a choppy surface, that means I'm going to have a choppy reflection. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.